Well, hello friends. Today I thought we were gonna do a few fun things. You know, the weather finally is very perfect. It is kind of cool, 60 degrees, nice in the sun, not too much wind. I think it's the perfect day to set up the fountain. So if you remember a couple years ago here in my front, we built this fountain together, you and me. We made it out of copper fittings, which I'll show you. We're now in its, third season, and it's actually looking and working really well. So I'm gonna show you kind of how I set that up, how I get ready for the warmer months here, because this is the time where you want everything to be ready to go. You're full of, hopefully, energy, life, excitement as we're getting ready kind of early in the season. And I'm also gonna give my first trim and do a little bit of fertilizing on my front boxwood. So you know, I have a lot of boxwood here in front. Some of them I'm not gonna touch, but the ones in front of my front porch we're gonna touch today. We're gonna talk a little bit about winter burn because they have some winter burn. And I'll kind of touch on that, why I've waited till now to trim them and fertilize them. Kind of talk about timing with that too, because that can make a difference. So it's kind of a few fun things to kind of dress up the front, get it ready for a season, and just some excitement kind of to go into a new garden time. So first here, you can see I want to kind of just give you lay of the land. We're in front of the house here. So the front porch, it's south facing. Oaks you can see are still not fully leafed out because they leaf out so much later. All of the beautiful stockies or lamb's ear is just beginning to start emerging, and eventually this will all fill in where you won't see in between any of it. But we're talking today about the fountain back here. So what I like is, and if we kind of step through these boxwood, the boxwood over here, I kind of want to cloud eventually, let them grow into each other and kind of have these beautiful mounds to them. And you can see they're putting on their fluffy spring texture with the new growth. I won't do as much pruning on these. I will do a little bit of shaping on some of them just to kind of even them out. But what I like is it's kind of growing in around the fountain, which to me is really fun on this side. So here's the fountain. Now what I have already done is I've cleaned it out, obviously, from winter. It had just some of that normal debris inside of it, leaves obviously, but also I had Christmas greens in it. And then I did give it a good scrub. This year I did also give it a quick kind of couple fresh swaths of some paint, just to freshen up some of the edges, anything that had kind of worn off. You know, so if you don't know, this is a very antique horse trough. It was from a local, just a few miles from me town, and it used to be in the square of the town, and someone was selling it on Marketplace one time, and I found it, and I was so excited, because for years I've been looking for one. I've seen them, but never for one to buy. And so it's very heavy, cast iron, super solid. You know, it was meant to originally have a water source that would just bring fresh water in, and it drained, it had an overflow on it that would drain out for horses that were parked beside it to be able to get water as needed. So what I have done, and I'll show you kind of up close, is created a copper system. I have a video on this you can go search for, where I have 3 copper kind of ups that the piping all fits together. It's just like that copper piping that you can buy at any store, that I fitted together and created 3 places that it just pushes out. So why don't you come in here and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. So really this is pretty simple. You can see that clean, okay. A bird took away some of my clean paint, but I didn't get that scrubbed away yet. So in here is the piece we made together, and you can go see that video like I said. The 3 copper fittings, I have my big pump. It takes a big pump to supply all 3 of these with somewhat of an even amount, and you have to have a circulating. The reason I made it this way is because it has to be circulating. So this happened since it was a trough to have a hole in the bottom, which makes it really easy to be able to push the cord through. It happens to just fit that pump cord perfectly, and this was already here, always had been, because it was a trough and had a drain. So any fountain that you would buy now, even like a big concrete one, has these little stoppers, these little gaskets really, that go around a cord, and then they are able to go down and pretty much plug this hole. So what I do find though, since this is cast iron and it's not perfectly smooth, it doesn't make always the best seal. So I take a little bit of plastic wrap, which I don't usually use, but I'm using it here because what it does is it helps create a better seal. So I wrap this little piece in this plastic wrap, because that will help it give a little bit more texture, but also it will kind of work into those spaces that aren't even as much, and it will help it grab on and make a tighter seal. So this is just when I'm setting it up, and then I leave it for the season. Every so often I will have to open this up and drain it completely if I need to, you know, wash it out better. But really what you do is you push this in as tight as you can, and then when there's water in here, I will sometimes be able to push it in a little bit tighter, but what that does is it just plugs it. There's also underneath, there's an access point in the back here, and I'll show you that. So the cord I just have pushed out there right now, it's no big deal. So I'm gonna fill it with water, check to make sure it's tight, and then we'll plug it in. You can see it's really nice that I have an access point that was already here. This is, honestly, I think these were made to be fountains. Maybe back in it has the date on it. It's like 1904 or something. The foundry thought someday. But no, what's really nice is you can stuff the cord underneath, and also I can check to see if it's dripping underneath too. So it can be used in multiple ways. And then hopefully we plug it in, and there we go, friends. Now, if some of you don't live in climates like I do where we have winter, the reason we have to climatize or have to winterize or things like this is because that pump cannot freeze. It would break. You don't want moisture or water to be in it. So every year I would never have any type of fountain that I can't do this to and can't adjust and clean out. But what's nice is this is multi-useful. It's beautiful with Christmas greens. If I had a concrete fountain, I would cover it. Some of the ones at my mom's that I do have, I cover them so moisture doesn't sit in them. But this is now ready to go. Sometimes I will admit it's under a pin oak and it can drop some certain things here over the spring. So over the course of the spring, I may clean it out a couple times, but otherwise there's now sound as you walk into the house. I can enjoy it from my kitchen window even, which is what I really love. Right around the corner from the fountain, which is gonna now make me really happy, is this beautiful area that I'm really enjoying. What I like about it right now in the spring, you get foxtail lilies, you get Mount Everest allium. The bees are all over them because they love all of them for pollinating. And you see how they just kind of dance behind all the boxwood in front of the front porch? That's what I really love. Now, I did last year plant some hydrangea, 5 of them across. So eventually those will be there, and once the bulbs kind of go away, those hydrangea will come more into play. But it will take them a while, but you can see them. I'll show you them kind of down below here. But what we're gonna do now is talk about the boxwood and kind of the spring care. So what's hard is our springs can be so erratic. Usually you wanna fertilize boxwood once in the spring and possibly once in the fall. Usually in the spring you wanna do it before their big flush of spring growth or right around that time. This year we had such warm temperatures early on that we've been going back and forth, and they kind of pushed out a lot earlier than they would. So I'm following the calendar more than the look of the boxwood, and this video will come out later, but I'm still in early spring. So I'm gonna fertilize the boxwood, and we're gonna talk about that, and then I'm gonna give them a quick fresh trim. I usually trim them about twice a year, just so they can keep a better shape. You know, boxwood grow and kind of push out growth pretty quickly, but if you don't keep it trimmed and you want them to have a better shape, they can grow a little bit more erratically. So every so often, a light trim, and you can be a lot more picky on that if you want, or just give them a light kind of trim to kind of help shape them. Either one can work. So most of these actually were planted within the last 10 years. What happened was, when I moved into this house and bought it from my grandparents, there were 2 boxwood down here that were here with their landscaping. And that's the only thing that has been kept in front of the front porch. And they're wintergreen boxwood. And then I started placing in all the others to match, but they were very small when I planted them. So obviously the ones that were here from Grandma and Grandpa were much bigger. So I've been keeping them at a size, trying to catch all these others up, which honestly now we're getting finally to a time frame where a lot of these are starting to catch up in size. What I try to do to help that is when I'm trimming them, the ones that are bigger, I give, you know, kind of a little bit more of a trim to keep them down to a size, but then the ones that are smaller, I give a very light trim to kind of encourage them to get more up to size to match the others. Now, there is some winter burn. I'm gonna show you that right here. If you look closely, these are on the south side, and we had a very dry winter. We get a lot of south wind in the winter this year since it was so warm. And you can see what it does is, it kind of brittles the tips and then can cause some of this bronzing, or this is actual dieback. So when I'm giving them a trim, I'll obviously hopefully get most of this too. Instead of going in and snipping out each one, I'll just kind of do it with their spring trim, which if you look closely, you can see there's other ones too that have a little bit of dieback. Like here's some of that winter burn and kind of that dieback, which that's gonna help kind of alleviate all that when I go to trim them. So for fertilizing, usually you go full strength in the spring, which I always am gonna use Espoma plant tone. And I use that because most evergreens are acid loving and they like acidic fertilizers. Boxwood and arborvitae are not like that. They like a more general purpose fertilizer. So I use plant tone, and you use it usually about a cup per the size of the shrub itself and put it around the drip line. The one thing you do always want to do is make sure to rake it in, because otherwise it kind of sits on top and it will just kind of get into a mass and not ever really work down into the soil well. It's a great time to also freshen up your mulch and just rake them together. But I'm gonna apply this first, and then we'll go through and give them a trim. You know, in the past I do measure it really well, but I feel like I've gotten to a point where I can kind of understand how much it is and know about how much to take. So I kind of just put it around the drip line like this, sprinkle it around, and you can see it's pretty simple here. And the reason I do this, especially for boxwood, I don't always fertilize everything in my yard, but boxwood are the thing we all want to keep healthy, right? We worry about box blight, which I don't think I have here yet, but I'm always worried. Fertilizing them is just gonna help make sure that they have a little bit better going. And also what I like about Plant Tone, it just helps enrich the soil. It helps strengthen the soil. It's slow release, it's organic. So it's also gonna build the soil along with help feed the boxwood themselves. So a rake is always gonna be important then to make sure. And you know what? I have an area I think that I did not rake in because I wanted to show you what it does if you don't. Because I think it's an important thing to know that these little steps that seem like extra work, they make a huge difference in our yard. They make a huge difference when we're going to do the work to make sure it's applied correctly. Over around the corner, I left some that I did not rake in so you could see what happens. Do you see how it just kind of, it becomes almost a solid mass on top? So until you work that into the soil, it's not going to benefit. It needs to actually get down into and make contact with some of that soil and be worked in, which you can see now it will much better when it starts raining, things like that, will be absorbed better. And we put it around the drip line because that's where most of those roots are going to be that want to soak in that good nutrients. If you put it too far away, it could not reach them. Too close could kind of do the same thing. And I like to keep it away from that crown of the plant anyway, so around that drip line is really important. So we're now getting to the part where I feel like it's a little hard for me to explain, so it's always just best for me to show you, and it's gonna be trimming these boxwood. It's one of the most asked questions I have, and I get it. We all have shrubs that we need to know how to trim. And this is one of those things where we always had boxwood and other things growing up, so I just started trimming with Dad, with Mom, and I'm gonna show you the way I do it. The one thing I think is important to know is, until they get to their full mature size, I go lighter on trimming. You don't wanna go too hard because keeping them too small is gonna really keep them at a small size and not get them to get maybe to the full size you want them to. So sometimes I let them be a little bit more unkept and more just give them a light trim and give them a slight shape if I want them to get much bigger, because I don't want to just cut back all that growth, because you can take these back if you want to wherever there's green. You can, some people like to trim them way back, I know, to where there's brown. I don't like to do that, and they can leaf back out. If I don't have to do that or don't want to try to revitalize a plant, I don't do that, obviously. Instead, what I do is give nice, light cuts, and I always do it by hand on a boxwood. Boxwood are very susceptible to burning from electric or gas-powered trimmers. So I don't like to use this. I like to use a good, sharp, nice shears. I sharpen this multiple times a year, and I keep it oiled. You can see it's nice. I just oiled it again. And while I'm trimming, I usually will give it multiple oilings during a pruning, just because you want to make sure you keep things nice and oiled so they clean cut every time. Because if you're not cutting clean, you're going to have these little burn marks, which, believe me, I've done that. When I first moved in here, I used a big powered trimmer over all these, and it would just rip them up, kind of shred them at the tips. That's not really nice, because then after a few days, you start seeing this browning on it, and that's all those rip marks. So doing it by hand, while it does take a little bit of time, it also allows you, as you're going through, to kind of keep adjusting for the look you want and for the shape you want. Now, you could put guides up if you want to, and yes, you could put down sheets if you want to, or something to catch it. Since I do mulch up here, and I probably will remulch this year, I'm just letting these go because they're gonna compost. Now, if you don't like that look, obviously pick them up. Also, all these lamb's ear fill in so much that within a few weeks, you're not gonna see any of this. Now, if you notice, I leave a little bit of variation. I'm not going so tight that it just looks like a sheet of paper almost is encompassing this. You have to remember that every cut you make, what it does is it spurs growth. When we make a cut on something, it's gonna now wanna branch out, just like you would cut herbs back or anything. So it's gonna continue to grow, and you may have to adjust this throughout the season, and that's why usually I do about 2 probably nice cuts a year, just to give them a better shape. And it's gonna also, in a few weeks, flush out tons of new growth. So that's why I fertilize them now, right before I cut, and then that will be there for all of the new growth that's happening. Every so often, shaking them out is just gonna help bring up any pieces that are maybe lodged below, and that just helps kind of make sure you're getting some of those errant pieces. But again, let's also remember, if you make a mistake, guess what? It's a plant, it's like hair, it's gonna grow back. I mean, don't maybe cut it back to the ground, but that's the whole thing. Don't get too scared to do things or think things have to be perfect. I think that's what we see pictures in magazines, we drive by, maybe something looks perfect. You know, some people hire people and they do this multiple times a year to always keep them perfect, and maybe like 4 times a year just to always have this fresh cut. You don't have to do that. This is at home, and you can kind of learn as you go and decide what you like for yourself. Personally, I don't like to give them quite a perfect cut. I like to leave a little bit of variation. I think the airflow is important on them. If they're too tight, that can also, during the hot summer, be a component of box blight and kind of harboring that a little bit more. So having a little bit of airflow can be really good. So instead, I just make sure they have a nice shape, so as they're growing, they're a little bit more even, and then move down the line. What I want to show you is, obviously they're not all at the same size because I'm still letting some of them get to size, but they're not all perfect either. So let's get up to some of them. Like this one. See how there's kind of variation? Like, instead of taking it all the way down to a level where there's no kind of holes or any kind of dips in that perfect outer coat, I don't take it all the way back because I want it to have size. Instead, what I do is I choose to shape them, give them more of those cuts that are going to encourage an overall shape as they grow out more, but not give them that perfect tight cut because I want them to still grow. Now also here you can see I took a little bit more off because of some of that winter burn. I don't want to take it all off. I might go in with now just a hand pruners and prune some of that more superficial winter burn back. Timing on when you're pruning can help winter burn, but this last winter was just kind of a time that was susceptible for it. I usually prune them once, kind of right around spring, and then I don't prune them anytime after August. So usually late July or August, I'll give them their last prune, because anything that grows after that, because anytime you cut something, it wants to keep growing. So any growth after that time, you want to harden off before you start getting really cold if you live in an area like me and have cold temperatures over the winter. Because if it doesn't, if you prune it too late and it grows out some of that fresh, tender growth, that is what is really susceptible to just burning then in the winter or dying back. So, and that can stress the plant over time. So that's why I don't prune, I'm zone 5B, I don't prune them any later than August. But if you're warmer, you can obviously keep taking that later and later depending. But this is all now a nice fresh cut, and you can see even from a distance, they just have a better, more clean look. Now, every year they get closer and closer to size. So hopefully soon they'll all be like this large size. Boxwood are a little bit slower growing than we want them to be. They can do well in both shade or sun. They're somewhat drought tolerant, but not until they're established. So until they have good established roots, they definitely need consistent watering, but well draining soil. But more so, they're not a super quick growth to them. So usually I always like to think, within 10 years, you might get closer to the mature size, but it's gonna be a slow growth over that time. So that's why I give them selective pruning. Some of them I prune a little bit sharper when they're really big like this, once they get to that mature size. Others, I more just try to give them a cut to encourage a better shape to them. But that is now done for today. So I will blow off some of that growth underneath that's on the elephant ear. But like I said, the elephant ear are gonna push out, but you're not gonna see any of that debris that fell off of them. So I'm gonna leave it. I like lazy gardening sometimes. I am picky about how things look. This is the front of the house, but that's what's great about that lamb's ear as a ground cover. It takes over and you're not gonna see any of that. And then what's nice is as the allium and the foxtail fade, because they look pretty, their leaves are already starting to look haggard after they start pushing everything into the flower itself, they're hidden behind the boxwood. And then eventually, those hydrangeas that are back there will poke out above that, and they'll continue to hide everything and hide the bottom of the porch, which will be nice too. So that is what I'm doing for today. I need to go mow. I hear a neighbor mowing, And we always know when a neighbor mows, it's time to mow, right? So I'd love to hear what you guys are doing right now in your garden, what you're kind of up to, because it's kind of fun to always know at different times of the year, what different places we live, what we're getting into. Have a good day, friends.